Okay, so here we go. We're about to transfer over to I-25 North in the direction of Santa Fe. Look at this. Las Cruces is south. All these Spanish names. Yeah, they're Spanish names because all this territory used to belong to Mexico until President Polk said, "Nah, we got to go west." God told me to go west. Manifest destiny. Got into a fight with the Mexicans and took all this territory. That's why you see all these Spanish names in all these places in New Mexico and Arizona, California, even as far up as Utah. Yeah. Here we go. Gonna make sure we slow our roll over here because at 76,000 pounds, you don't want to be taking these curves too fast. I gotta look to see the load, and the pallets are not tall, so my center of gravity isn't so high that even if I go a little faster than what I should on these curves, I won't be rolling over. Here we go. We're merging onto I-25 North, y'alls. Yeah, this is exciting. This is exciting. Albuquerque, New Mexico, merging from I-40 to I-25. Speed limit 55 miles per hour. I think I'm gonna need more cameras pointing in the direction of each window, from the passenger side window and the driver's side window, because there's a lot to see on both sides that I can't pick up on this camera facing straight ahead. Well, here we go, y'alls. Santa Fe is the next city. Get ready, because we're about to cross over into Colorado. Still on I-25. What kind of elevation are we at? We're up there. We've been steady between 5,500 and 6,000, but right now we're at 7,158, 161 elevation. And there were houses around here, you can't see them, and so that means there are people living up here, working up here, playing sports up here in this altitude where oxygen levels are less, I think, the higher up you go in elevation. Look at this. Look at this. This is beautiful. This is I-25 northbound, coming up from Albuquerque, New Mexico, and we're about to cross into Colorado. Shout out once again to Hook It Up Homestead. Here we go. We haven't crossed it yet, y'alls. And like always, usually when you're by a state border, there's a weigh station. And sure enough, I'm 2 miles away from the weigh station. So we're probably somewhere around 2 miles away from the border. Yeah, this twist and turn is familiar. I usually come south from Colorado into New Mexico on I-25. I don't normally go northbound. And this is a trip during the winter, let me tell you. This is a trip. There it is. Oh, but wait, they changed it up because my GPS says I'm 1.4 miles away from the way station, and this thing is saying I'm 14 miles away from the way station. They might have moved it. They might have shut down one and opened up a new one in another location, or it's the one in Colorado that's only open now. All trucks, commercial vehicles, 13 miles. Some people take a risk of not going into the way station when it's open. Not a risk I'm willing to take. Look, this is all mountain right now. I wonder how much higher I am now. Let's hit the elevation button. 7,600 now. And still climbing. 7,640. 654. 660. 68. 73. 82. 87. Oh, we got a steep downhill coming soon. 6% grade. 7,726. Still climbing. 748. 51. 56. 64. 7,772. 7,781. We're near the top now. What's it going to top off at? 7,796. 7,804. Yo, there's the way station on the southbound side to the left there. And we're at 7,814. 19 feet. Yeah, we're still climbing. 7,829. I don't think that's the max so far. 841. 46. 51. Now we're going down. 50. 47. 43. Yeah, we're going down now. We're going down now. Here we go. Can you see the mountain range off to the left there? See, I gotta be careful here now, because this is downhill, and I gotta make sure I slow down to the point where I don't glaze up my brakes. So what I do is I pump the brakes. Look at this sign coming up. Bear crossing sign. Bear crossing sign. I wonder what size bears they got out here. Could be grizzly. And if they're crossing, yeah. Now here's a little parking spot so you can get a scenic view. The thing is, I don't think they allow trucks in that one though. But if you are a truck and it's late night and this is a bear crossing area, a lot of truckers tend to have food inside their trucks. And if they're not paying attention to detail and they don't lock their doors, you might have a bear opening up your door looking for some vittles. And we'll be back Yeah, we'll be back when we get to near Denver or Aurora. What the fruit flavor? For Hook It Up Homestead, we are just south of Denver. I don't know how far south, but we're very close to Denver. Denver, Colorado. Look at this traffic. I gotta get over to the right somehow. I'm gonna try. It's challenging because, like that white pickup right there, as soon as I put my directional signal on to change lanes, they sped up. There was a gap between us for a good while, and the minute I put that directional signal that I was going to change lanes, boom, stepped on that gas pedal. Fortunately, there was another gap, so I was good. Sometimes it takes a while for another gap to appear. Yeah, it gets challenging. This is that morning traffic over here on the way to Denver. I gotta hop on I-225 to get to Aurora. And Aurora is east of Denver, a little south and east of Denver, a little bit. This feels like, oh, see, this is what I'm talking about. I look to the left and I can see the Rockies, the mountain range. But I don't have a camera facing out there, so you can't see it. And it's hazy out, so it's not that clear. It's like when I was in Washington State and I was trying to get footage of Mount Rainier. It's a little on the hazy side, so it makes it difficult. I gotta get over to the right one more. There's a gap. Let's get up in that gap. I got 3.5 miles to go before I have to exit onto I-225. If you look ahead, you'll see that I have a gap between me and the vehicle in front of me. I need that gap. I need that gap in case I have to stop suddenly. Drivers sometimes will get ahead of me, see this gap, and get upset sometimes. But because I weigh 76,000 pounds, I'm not going to stop as quickly as a car will. So I need space in front of me in case I need to stop all of a sudden. And it could be for any reason. Out here, as developed as this looks, I've seen deer crossing roads in populated areas like this. So a deer could pop in. There are hours of the day that you'll see more deer than in other hours. Usually around sunset, you'll see a lot more deer out, and you got to be careful. Here we go. I still don't know if this is part of Denver or not. Let's go. I don't know how impressive it is for others who've never been to this part of the States to see a bunch of tall buildings. I don't know how impressive that is. Or just the excitement of seeing a city outside of anything they've ever visited. Maybe the type of buildings that they have. Some buildings have some beautiful lighting, and it's still impressive. I remember going into Dallas one day, and I was impressed. I was impressed going up 24 in Tennessee also. As you're headed west, I guess, on 24, because 24 is east-west, but it's more north and south at that point in Tennessee by Nashville. And as you're coming up, you get to see the Titan Stadium and the colors of the stadium and the buildings close by. It's impressive. It's beautiful. And I don't understand why they built this entire structure from the highway to the stadium and blocks the entire stadium and the view to the stadium. Now there's a building in the way, a big one. Not sure what that's all about. I don't know if that's a huge parking lot, or bottom line is that it's blocking the view. I don't know what it's going to look like when it's finished, but personally, my opinion is that whoever planned that out didn't do a good job. I don't think so. Unless when they're done with this structure, they add something that's equally as appealing visually for somebody like myself. I found it impressive the first time I drove up 24 and saw Titan Stadium over to the left and the surrounding buildings with their lighting, different colored lighting. Oh, did you guys see the train over on the left? Yeah. But no city in the United States has a skyline like New York City. And the iconic Chrysler buildings and the Empire State buildings let you know immediately what you're looking at. World Trade Center used to be another iconic structure, but that's changed. It's a single structure now. And to me, when I'm driving up I-95 in New Jersey, the new World Trade Center kind of gets lost. Unless there's something, some kind of lighting, some kind of colors to help make it stand out. If not for that, it'll blend right in with the other tall buildings. At least that's how I perceive it. I remember going to pick up my mother at one of her part-time jobs. My father used to drive down to where the World Trade Center was being built. Right across the street, I could look up and I could see the scaffolding and the cranes way up top while they were completing the World Trade Centers. And then I hear it on the news as I'm driving. I remember exactly where I was. I heard the first reporting of a plane hitting one of the buildings. I thought that was strange. I thought it was a small plane because they didn't specify at first. So I thought maybe it was a Cessna or something along that size. And it hit that building, and I thought, wow, must have been a new or a pilot that was learning how to fly and just. But then other reports came in about the size of the aircraft, and then another aircraft hitting another building. And I immediately thought, no, something's wrong here. 2 planes? I can see one small plane, maybe someone learning how to fly and doesn't know how to interpret their instruments. But then I heard it was a commercial, one of those commercial airlines. And I thought, nah, man, this is really wrong. There's something terribly wrong here. And 2 of them at that. And then, of course, after that, with more reports and more planes going down in other parts of the states, like in Washington, D.C., like in Pennsylvania, and the speculation being made as to what was behind all this. I was then watching the footage of the towers coming down, and I'm sitting there amazed. A few thoughts going through my mind. One of them being that the structure came down like it was a controlled demolition. That's what it looked like to me. Then I get a phone call from my nephew. He was in one of the buildings. Actually, he was down in the basement. He was coming out of the train station. And some young lady that he was talking to, because he needed some direction, because he was on his way to an interview. And he was telling me how they felt like they were in an earthquake. And he was telling me how security told everybody to stay where they were, but after that rumbling on the ground, they said, nah, we're not doing this, we're not staying here. And they started heading out. They went upstairs, started headed for the exits, and as they were heading out for the exit, some bodies dropped within a few feet of where they were standing, him and that young lady. My son's great uncle on his mother's side, he was also in the vicinity. I wonder how his health is, because he was covered in debris and dust, because he was right across the street, and all that debris, when he was showered by all that debris, he hit the deck. He went down to the ground and hugged up alongside a car, and he got showered with all that dust, all that toxic dust and debris. And then I remembered that somebody I grew up with who became a firefighter, and I wasn't sure if I wasn't sure where he was a firefighter. I don't know if it was in New York City or in Long Island, where he was originally from. I tried looking him up, and I couldn't find him anywhere. So I'm hoping he wasn't close to that event. I still don't know to this day, so I don't know if he's okay or not. I imagine that this is Aurora. Yeah, and another friend, he was in the building. He was in the 80-something floor of the second building that got hit. The windows of the offices that he was working at were facing the first building that got hit. And everybody froze. But my friend is former military, and his military training kicked in, and he helped everybody snap out of their shock, and was able to get himself and direct the people around him to the stairs, and head downstairs and out to safety. I can imagine how panicked those people were running down those stairs. In events like those, you don't want to take elevators, but to run down from 80-something floor must have been super challenging for the older members of that group. It's probably challenging for people who were in their 20s to run down 80-something floors. But they made it out safely. That was a blessing. Ambulance. Or the rescue. Yeah, we're in Aurora now. This is Aurora, Colorado. Adjacent to Denver. You can still see the mountain range from here. But like I said, it's hazy out, so it's not clear. If I were to record it on camera, I don't think it would be clear enough. But to the naked eye, yeah, you can see it. I'm gonna connect with I-70, and if I were to go west on I-70, I would have been going through that mountain range that I mentioned, and I would have been going through that tunnel. I-70, I remember a series of 4 tunnels that I went through on my way to, was it California or Nevada? Don't remember. Not my favorite area to travel during the winter. You got the chain laws out here. So by a certain time of the year, you have to have chains, the correct number of chains, in the event that you have to do a whatever highest level chain up is. The highest level chains require 6 chains. So you have to drive around with those chains if you're in Colorado, Wyoming, Nebraska. I think Nebraska. Definitely Nevada, California, Washington. I don't remember if Oregon has chain laws. And they're strict about that stuff. I've had to chain up twice. The second time, I just paid somebody else off to do it. So I'm 8.7 miles away from my destination. I gotta go to this food warehouse. Oh, look at that. I'm looking at my arrival time and it's 9:11. Ha! What a coincidence. Anyway, I'm gonna leave it up to Kitty to come grab you guys. And you already know the deal. Stay fresh and keep it profitable.
Arabam Dacia, seviyorum çift kalem maça. Göremedi kimseden fayda. İşler